We're ready to get started.
Ready? Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. We are here for the Clinton Chamber, who is sponsoring this candidates forum for the council elections for the city of Clinton. There are 6 candidates running for council, 4 of them who are attending here today and will participate in this forum. Those that are running for the city council are Ed O'Neill. He's running for the 3rd Ward, and he is just to my right. We have Bill Schimmer to my right, who's running at large. To my left is Seth Oder, who is running for the 3rd Ward. And to his left is Julie Allisey, who's running unopposed. And those not present tonight are Sean Connell and Dr. Reese Peters, who are both running at large also. This is a candidates forum, and we're going to give questions to each of the candidates that they have not been presented before. They have been made aware of the topics of discussion, but not the questions themselves. We're going to start off by allowing each of the candidates 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Then we'll begin with the questions. Each of the candidates will have 1 minute to provide a response to their question. I'll have an opportunity to ask follow-up questions at my discretion. And then with the conclusion of all the questions, each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. So we'll go ahead and begin. We're going to start on the left with Julie Allisey with question number 1. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to start with opening statements. Julie, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Julie Allisey. I am from Clinton. I've been a resident of Clinton almost all my life. I'm married. I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. I have some experience with the Marketing Services Administrator at the A.C. Nielsen Companies and Dun & Bradstreet. I have been a business owner, co-owned Fun and Games and JCPenney catalog merchant. I was the director of the Clinton Convention and Visitors Bureau and the president of the Clinton Chamber of Commerce. I have been the Ward 2 consul for 2 years in 2011, and there was a redistricting change at that time, and my district then became Ward 1. I was elected to Ward 1 in 2013. I serve on that ward yet to date, so that is a total of 4 years. That is my involvement with it. I'm pleased to be a member of the Clinton City Council. I've enjoyed my service on the council. I've enjoyed being in Ward 1. Ward 1 is probably the most diverse ward in the city, as it has all types of residents. It's residential, it's commercial, it's light manufacturing, and it's manufacturing. So we have every kind of business commodity within the first ward. Thank you.
Mr. Oder?
I'm Seth Oder. I'm running for 3rd Ward. I'm currently an at-large member of the council. I was appointed back in January after Tom Detterman became a county supervisor. So I've been on the job now for about 7-8 months or more. I am not originally from Clinton. I am originally from Webster City, but I moved here back in 2008 and came here with Fairway Stores, was transferred in. And then about 2 years ago, I started as the Director of Marketing and Sales with Skyline Center Incorporated, as advocating for disabled individuals, finding them work, just helping them integrate into the community. My wife of nearly 10 years is my greatest support. We've loved living here. We've chosen to stay here. We've recently adopted 3 children out of Iowa's foster care system. The last 2 most recently were adopted just last Friday. So I'm very proud of my family and very proud of this community. I've always wanted to serve in public service ever since I was a little kid. And my father, who works for the city of Fort Dodge in the Public Works Department, has really instilled in me a knowledge of how municipalities run and a love for the people of the city and just the way things work, from infrastructure to taxes and so on and so forth. And he's been an excellent role model for me. And my basic thing in why I'm running is to continue on this journey that Clinton is on, that we are on a high trajectory. We're moving forward, and I want to be part of this and continue to have a say in the policy making. Thank you.
Mr. Shimmers?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for showing up. My name is Bill Shimmers, and I'm running for the Clinton City Council at-large position. My journey began a long time ago. I'm actually was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I went to Arizona State University and of the College of Public Programs. After I left and graduated with my bachelor's degree, I had a 26-year career in law enforcement, 23 years with the city of Phoenix, and at one point I supervised up to 236 personnel, some civilians, some sworn officers. I also ran the state's human trafficking task force and the mayor's task force for liquor enforcement for the city of Phoenix. After 23 years, I retired as a U.S. Marshal and a lieutenant with the City of Phoenix Department. From there, I went to the Department of Defense, worked out at Luke Air Force Base with the military, where I was a trainer as well as a investigator for the U.S. Air Force. At that point, my wife and I made a decision. We wanted to move to a smaller community. My wife, who also spent 21 years in the law enforcement, had retired, and she said, let's move to Clinton. My wife, you see, is a Clinton born and raised person. I'm commonly known as Kelly's husband, but her name is Kelly McElhaney. Many of you know her by that. We decided to move 1,700 miles and bring our 3 young kids out here. I have a 12-year-old boy by the name of William and twin 8-year-olds, Darren and Daniel. And it was with them that I made the decision to run for the city council. A few months ago, I asked them, I said, hey, what do you guys think about me running? They know my involvement within the city. They know my belief in the city. And my 12-year-old came back to me and he goes, Dad, you always taught us to stand up and fight for what you believe in and never give up. I'm here to tell you right now, I'm sitting up here, but I'm going to stand and fight for the citizens of Clinton, and I believe in the city. And I really think I can do a really good job for the citizens. And we'll talk more about me in a little bit. So, thank you.
Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for sponsoring this tonight, giving us an opportunity to get our points of view over to the citizens. I moved here 30 years ago from West Central Illinois. I moved there after I did a 4-year term in the Navy, went to Western Illinois University, finished up my degree in law enforcement. That was the first political seat I ever held. I ran and won a seat on the Board of Supervisors in Hancock County. I was 26 years old, and that was when I fell in love with politics. And I've followed it or been involved with it ever since. When I moved here, I worked at McElhaney Motors and as a Toyota sales manager. Then I spent a long period of time working for the Chamber and the CRDC, and then I was on the City Council back in 2004. Left that seat a little bit early to take a job with the Chamber, and then moved over to CRDC where I was the infrastructure specialist. I'm now running for my 3rd term in City Council. I've worked at these goals for the city for the last 13 to 16 years, and I want to again follow through with some of the things that are coming up. We've made a lot of strides in the last 4 years with this council, and I actually look forward to every Tuesday coming and working with this group of people. They're very easy to work with. We get a lot of things done. I think we have a great rapport with each other and a lot of respect. We don't agree with each other 100% of the time, but we're not supposed to. So we're supposed to have different points of view, and I think the group we got right now is bringing that diversity and those different points of view. I look forward to serving another 4 years, and it's been an honor and a privilege so far. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our opening statements. Let's get started with the questions. I think what I'd like to do is, Mr. O'Neill, we'll start with you on this first question, and we'll work our way to the left.
Okay.
Each year, the City Council is challenged with the issue of balancing the budget. If faced with the decision of whether to cut services or increase taxes, what would you do?
Well, I think I would continue to do what I've done in the past. I would find a different solution, and we've talked about this among us before. The services that we provide now are good. I think they can be better. Over the last 4 years, under the mayor and the council that we have right now, we've reduced the tax levy for 4 years in a row, and so I think I'd like to pursue doing that and reduce the levy And so the challenge is to come up with something out of the box as far as coming up with new revenue and increase the tax base. If we increase the tax base, we'll have more money to provide more services without raising taxes. If we come up with some more avenues of revenue, as far as something new and different, I think that's something we need to look at also. So I think the idea of just cutting taxes to keep services, or to increase services, you have to increase taxes. I don't believe, and I never have believed, that's the only answer. Thank you.
Mr. Shimmers.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think we need to live within our means. We have a budget. Families out there have budgets we have to live within, and I think the city must do the same thing. I do believe that I'm not in favor of raising taxes, but I also believe that the city of Clinton is also working with minimum staffing to begin with. I think we can be inventive, and I think there are other alternatives. But I think instead of doing either one, I think we ought to take a positive approach, and let's increase the amount of people that live here. Let's get people to move here, and let's set stride, just like the reason I moved here. This is a community people want to come and live to. And I believe that we can do that, and I don't think we need to cut taxes, and I don't think we'd ever have to cut employees. I think we are good at what we do, but I do believe that we can take the next step.
Mr. Roeder.
I'm not in favor of raising taxes by any means. And I think that the harsh reality is kind of what Bill alluded to, is we need to live within our means. And I think we have done a good job of doing that recently. It's been something I've championed along with the other members on the council since I've been serving. But we have to bring in more individuals into our community. So how are we going to do that? I think we can all agree that that needs to happen. Well, we need to be willing to allow any and all jobs to come in here. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more in economic development about this, but we need to be able to allow, fast food jobs to come in, other commercial jobs. We always hear a lot, let's get the $20, $25 an hour jobs in here first and then build on that. But I think, we need to just continue to bring in more individuals regardless of how much the job pays, and they are be contributing taxpayers to our system here, and we shouldn't be shying away from that. Thank you.
Ms. Allison.
Well, over the last 3 years, we have actually decreased the city's tax levy. It doesn't seem apparent sometimes because the school and the county also has levies that go into our tax base. But if you look at the city's line item alone, we have reduced taxes. Our staff, our development staff here have reviewed every piece of their components within their jobs and have given us good opportunity over the last few years to reduce their budgets down, to make everything so that we can work within the constraints of the budget we have. We have some challenges coming for us in the next few years. Possibly one of those could be a rollback on the commercial property tax base. So I agree with the people here tonight. We need to increase the number of people in this town. From 1970 to now, we went from 37,000 people to 25, and yet we still are doing the same kind of services, giving the same kind of services in a wider land than we were before. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to question number 2. It seems like all the candidates have agreed that somehow we need to increase the tax base and the population of the city of Clinton. So, Mr. Shimmers, much of the recent development in Clinton has occurred with the use of tax incremental financing, TIFs. How do you feel about the use of a TIF for growth and development, and are there specific uses that you agree with or are opposed to with respect to TIFs?
I think we need the TIFs, and quite frankly, residential TIFs. I mean, when I moved here, I started my house, and I built my house with the 3-year system that the city had put in place. But I think it goes even deeper than that. We want to bring the people here, but how do we get them here? What is it that we can attract them here? I do think we need to expand on some of our highways. And if you look at just Mill Creek by itself, the new residential that has gone along there since the Mill Creek highways or roadways brought in, we need to bring that to fruition, increase the population. To do that, we also need to bring in the new housing. When we go further than, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Thank you. I'll go back to that later.
All right. Mr. Roeder.
I am in favor of using TIFs. I think that they are a way to, as we alluded to earlier, drive up our population, which is our tax base. It allows developers to come in, build an addition somewhere, put the streets in, and then it allows that money to float back after an allotted time back to the city. So I think to get the housing, and I think we've all said this before, that we need more market rate housing in this community, whether it be apartments or new homes. And so I think TIF is a way to get there, and I think it benefits everyone in the community, because it might start out as a private entity with a private developer, but the city banks on that, and it's attractive for people to come in, develop, build new homes, and it really helps the curb appeal in our town as well. Thanks.
So are you opposed to any use of TIF, residential or commercial, or TIF in all purposes?
I am not opposed to any usage of TIF. I would like to see them use both residentially and commercially if possible in certain situations.
Thank you. Ms. Allison?
Well, my view is as long as other communities are offering TIF, in order to stay competitive, we have to also do that. It's a public financing method that's helped us with infrastructure development, redevelopment of areas, and incentives for companies to come here. Without it, we are starting lower on the totem pole when it comes to bringing companies in. So as of this moment, until there comes a time when the legislator no longer allows TIFs, we have to use it to be competitive.
And your position is on commercial or residential?
Yes,
Both?
it is.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. I'm in favor of TIF for industrial and for development of housing, but I do have some criteria that I'd like to follow. Before that, one, the project would have to benefit a large segment of the general public. I would insist that the general manager guarantee 70% of use of local contractors and buy 80% of their supplies here in town. The project would have to comply with all federal, state, and hiring wage requirements, and the project would have to guarantee a ratio jobs for, like for instance, for $250,000 worth of TIF, they'd have to supply 50 jobs, and that the project agrees to a minimum guaranteed assessment at the end of the TIF period. We ran in before where the TIF is over, and then they go and ask for a lower assessment. So they would have to guarantee their assessment after the TIF is done, so we get those tax dollars back.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Oder, recently there's been discussion about widening Mill Creek Parkway and also extending the parkway to Main Avenue. What is your position on widening Mill Creek Parkway, and what is your position on extending Mill Creek Parkway to Main Avenue?
Well, if anyone's seen the last few council meetings, I think you know that I'm in favor for both of those projects, specifically on the widening Mill Creek Parkway and the talk of the Tiger Grant being available. This is something that we need to look into. Why? Because the Lions Tech Park is out there, and we know the business owners, individuals are looking for communities like ours that have easy access for transportation, easy access to and from their jobs, to and from, whether it be commercial, manufacturing, what have you. So I am in favor of that, and allowing also the expanded bicycle path, which is good for health in the community. So I think it's great. I think we need to move forward on the Tiger Grant. I think we need to move forward if this is something that does come to fruition. It's shovel ready. It's not going to cost us too much there, so I think we need to move on with it.
Ms. Allison?
Well, I live off Mill Creek Parkway, and I can tell you that I think extending to 4 lanes makes a lot of sense for a safety purpose, if nothing else alone. I am in favor of the Tiger Grant. I'm in favor of extending the parkway from 136 up to Eagle Point or 67 North. I think that we can put some new development up in that general area. I am in favor of the Tiger Grant, filing the Tiger Grant with the hope that we get the money, because otherwise it's going to be a push for us to put it into the normal budget.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. 5 weeks ago, I was the one vote that opposed doing this Tiger Grant right now. 5 weeks ago, we had a meeting where we talked about this. At that meeting, we did make a promise to the Lions Business District that we would not extend Mill Creek Parkway until we did an impact study of how it would affect Lions. I am still going to stick by that commitment until they have changed their mind that it's not necessary. The other thing, the money we've already put into Mill Creek Parkway over the years, we did have a $750,000 clawback. We had to give back to the state, and we did have a RISE grant that we did participate in. And so the idea of, in the future, that's been talked about, of completing this and then turning it back over to the state and us taking 2nd Street as 67 North, which it is now, and making Mill Creek Parkway 67 North and turning that over to the state, I just don't think is a good use of the taxpayers' money to build that up and then turn it over to the state. Thank you.
Mr. Shimmers.
Yes, I'm definitely in favor of both, to include the Tiger Grant. You know, in Arizona, where I came from, we used to drive around parts, and arguably the Maricopa County is the fastest growing county in the country. And you'd go out there and you'd see roads going out in the middle of the desert. And then you go, why in the world would they build that? And it was a year later, you'd take a drive out there, and there was housing, there's development, there's businesses. I will tell you, it doesn't work the other way around. You can't put houses and developments and businesses if you don't have a road there. The widening will bring in more traffic, and the extension will take more traffic up to our parks, our recreation areas, to include the bike path that was mentioned. I think it's a great opportunity, and we need to do both. The traffic that we can bring in through tourism alone to bring us up to the Eagle Point Park will move people into this area and spend money, which is what we need to grow our area. It includes residential businesses and everything that we need that will go along with that.
Thank you. Ms. Alessi, the city of Clinton seems to struggle over the years with a declining population and stagnant economy. Some people feel that the city struggles with a perception problem, and that's creating some of the declining population and the stagnant economy. If re-elected, what would you do to improve the image or perception of the city of Clinton?
I've worked for years at trying to improve the image of the city of Clinton. When I was the director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, we were the marketing arm, more or less, for the city of Clinton. I have a positive attitude about the city of Clinton. I'm unhappy that we've lost 1/3 of our population. I certainly think that we're working hard to bring businesses back to the community. I think if people were to consider to move out of the community and come back, from what I've seen in the past, they're happy to be here. That some of the things that we've done over the years, the quality of life that we give to people here, is second to none.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. I don't believe we have quite an image problem. I think what we're facing right now, and it's been brought out before, and I think it's been changing, that I think we have an attitude problem, the attitude of the citizens that actually live in here. We always are harder on ourselves than we're perceived to be from the outside in. So I think the first thing we need to do, and we're taking big steps in doing that, is changing the attitude from inside the town. And I think right now there is probably the best period that I can recollect where groups are working together for a common cause. The council works together very well, and I think we're going to see some big improvements and some things come to the Lions Tech Park. And the quality of life issues we have, we need to keep improving those to draw people here and get a younger generation to move into some of these areas.
Thank you. Mr. Shimmers.
Well, yeah, we've had a 4.3% loss in population since 2010, and that has to reverse. We need to move that the other direction for every reason. We need to increase the population and growth just to bring the tax base back up. That's very important. Is there an image problem? There might be, but I'll tell you right now, especially when I talk to my wife, who was born and raised here, and she just had a class reunion here, the image problem can be changed. My wife was thrilled when we moved back here, and that can continue to go forward. You know, Chamber is doing a great job, but you know what? I think a lot of it starts here at the top. It starts here in City Hall. If we can start working better together and working with the other communities and with the counties and even the state and show them that, you know what, we're ready to grow, we're ready to push forward. It's time to do that. We can do that. I truly believe, you know, I've moved here based on my wife, and I'll tell you what, it is a great place to live, and it wouldn't take a lot to jumpstart that and move us forward.
Mr. Oders.
Yeah, I think the problem is twofold. I think there is some attitudinal issues to deal with in the city, and there is an image problem with the wider area. A lot of individuals, for whatever reason, tend to think negatively, and I think what we need to do is, and I'm a marketing guy, and kind of like with Julie, we need to market it to the outside world, so to speak, what we have here. Like I said in my opening statement, my wife and I have chosen to live here because we love it here, and everybody on this panel here tonight loves it here. And so I think what we can begin to do is we can begin to improve the image ourselves within the city council, as was alluded to, and working with other communities. I mean, we border Comanche, we border Fulton, and we have a great opportunity being next to Illinois. We can be the voice of Iowa to Illinois. And so I think that simply just broadcasting what we have, because we already have a great community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill, you have $400,000 available in the city budget. What, if anything, would you do with the money?
Probably right now the top priority for me, it'd be to make sure that we fund and redevelop and reuse the Ashford University complex. That in itself, that project takes a lot longer, 1 minute to explain, but the benefits to the city in the long term are outstanding. I would also take and make sure we have everything we need for the tech park. I think that's the next place we're going to see a big shot in the arm. I most certainly would stay with the street program, that $2.7 million, which we budget every year, and make sure that we put some of it into what a couple of years ago we had our first contingency fund, which was unheard of years ago. So I would make sure that contingency fund got a boost in the arm with at least $100,000 or $200,000.
Mr. Shimmers.
Sure. Well, last year I attended and I think this is good for everybody, by the way, I attended the Citizen Fire Academy. And one of the things I noticed is they do a phenomenal job with what they have to work with. I think we can improve our city with a little more technology. I don't know that $400,000 would get us that far, but in that process, I think first and foremost is life safety issues. I think we need to provide our citizens with the latest technology with both police and fire, and I'm not sure we're there yet. I don't know a lot about the police side of aspect, but I have learned a lot on the fire side. I think the communication, we were talking a second ago about the attitude in Clinton. I think if we as a city open up and make ourselves a little more available in the communication part, I think that would change a little bit of that, as well as help move this city forward with regards to lowering a little bit of the negative attitude, life safety issues, and the perception that is perceived out here with us.
Thank you. Mr. Oder?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I always hear concerns about, you see it on social media, is our infrastructure. If there was an extra $400,000, I'd put it towards an infrastructure program. Now, I would put this towards a capital improvement program, which would allow us to seek out some grants. I mean, there's always some cost involved with grants from the federal and state levels, that we can actually get money back on these, whether we go in 50-50 if we take the $400,000 and we get it matched, or if we have an 80-20 grant. Think of the revenue that'll be given to us there. So I would like to take this money and see it towards the infrastructure, towards the streets, the roads, the sewers, all sorts of stuff, because that is the number one thing that I see. And let's face it, we all drive the roads in town, and some of them need to be improved. And I think if we had the capital to do that, it would benefit the city as a whole.
Thank you. Ms. Allison?
Well, with $400,000, it's not a lot of money compared to the total budget, but we have had, or over the past year and a half to 2 years, we've been working on the housing issues that we have in town. We have a lot of housing stock that needs improvement. I agree with Mr. Oder. If we had $400,000 and we could leverage that, we could make it to $800,000 and start improving some of the general areas of town that are falling down in Ward 2 and Ward 1. We've done some of those improvements over time now. It makes a difference in the neighborhoods when we do this. So I think a program that would use the money that we already have available and expand it to improve some of the neighborhoods.
Thank you. Mr. Shimmers, the cost of government continues to rise. In order to keep budgets in line and reduce taxes, there's been some discussion about streamlining city and county government, and that may be an option. What's your position with regard to streamlining city and county government services?
I guess my question would be then, do we have a specific area? I don't, I mean,
Well, I guess-
are we talking about, like the assessors area, or are we talking about law enforcement? I think streamlining is always good, and if you can consolidate or privatize in some areas. I know recently when we went to the single stream recycling, that was put out for the public to respond to, and also if they, which came in at the better bid. The city was able to show that they were able to come in with a lower bid and provide the services, keeping everything else we had intact. So streamlining, there's a lot of fingers in government. I guess I would have to ask you which direction we would go at that point.
And that's a fair question. I was headed down that direction anyway. So to the extent that there's an overlap of services, or maybe an opportunity such as the city or county assessor's office, or with regard to the fire and police department.
Well, in the city assessor's office, we have two assessors right now. We have a county and we have a city assessor. If the moons were to line up perfect, now is the time to look at that scenario here. We have a city assessor who's retiring at the end of next month. We have a county assessor. To streamline and eliminate one level or one section of government to bring it fall in place with the county government, which we already have in place, that would be streamlining, and I would be definitely in favor of that. And as far as the police and fire, they both operate independently right now. Could that happen? And I know in some cases, when you look at state police, some of them are medic trained, but I don't think you're going to get the medical services from a law enforcement officer when it like advanced life support or something like that. It would definitely take a real deep look in order to proceed with that. But right now, as far as the city assessor goes, that is an area that we can consolidate, streamline, and make it more cost efficient for the community.
And along those services, and everybody will get an opportunity to answer these, but moving along that same line of discussion, what about privatizing or outsourcing services?
Well, I'm all for throwing the bid out there for that, like we did with the single stream recycling. That did go out to bid, and I believe only one company showed up, Republic. There may have been two, and they all came in, and the city presented itself. So yeah, we do have opportunities to privatize, but I would say, you have to look at all things being equal. I would say let's stay with the city. However, if you have a company that comes in that just underbids the city services, that would be something we'd have to strongly look at and consider long term. It's not something you'd want to do overnight. It's something you'd have to take an in-depth look, do some research on, and then look at how that would ultimately affect the citizens and the services that are going out there to the public.
Thank you. Mr. Roeder.
Well, how would you like me to start? Just kind of covering everything? Or?
In any order you want. Do you want me
okay.
to reread the question? Or?
No, I've got the question. So let me put it out here this way. When it comes to our services such as fire, police, I am not in favor of streamlining those and putting those together. I think if you look just at Clinton County's geography alone, we're a big county with a lot of land, and to be able to to do that, I mean, and just knowing the people on our police and fire departments, I mean, they do a great job for us, and so I am not in favor of that. When it comes to the assessor's office, I'm going to be honest, I don't have enough information to be able to say, yes, let's do it this way or let's do it the other way. So I need some more information going forward. Now, and I know it looks like it's a great time to be able to reassess this, and I think we should reassess this. And I hope in the coming months that we can sit and we can look at the benefits. What is the benefit of having, one as opposed to two? You know, because if you're a Clinton resident, you're going to have essentially 2 assessors. So I'm not going to give a position either way on that, just because I would like to see the numbers. And I will say this about other things of government giving up some things to privatization, which, by the way, I'm for in most areas. However, if we look at something that happened years ago with the water, the city of Clinton no longer has their own water program. It was given to Iowa American Water, and it's hard to get things back once you outsource it. And so if we start outsourcing some of these programs, it could be very difficult for us as a city to go, whoa, wait a minute, there's some issues going on with this company who's running it. I mean, we're seeing that happen in with Medicaid in Iowa, and the agency I work for deals with Medicaid, and they outsource things, and sometimes it looks good on paper. Now, again, I am for cutting government expense. I am for private enterprise on most things, but the things mentioned here tonight, some services, the assessor, again, I'm up in the air with, but I don't think we should be going off selling off all of our services. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Ms. Allison.
We do currently privatize some service, and that's the mowing piece that you've been seeing. We have that happen. That's a bidding process that happens once a year. We have a large amount of park and the Liberty Square that we mow. There's a ton of mowing in addition to the houses that don't have upkeep on themselves. We pay for that mowing. So we've already done that. I think our staff has done a great job on the basic services of Clinton. They review their processes all the time to see where they can streamline their ability to work. In my mind, the staff has done a great job, and if you'll look at the garbage and that type of thing, they've done a wonderful job with the pickup on that, and then going to the new recycling service. I think things are working very well. As far as the city assessor is going forward, we have had a little bit of a discussion with the county assessor with this. I'd like to know if the people that are in the offices are going to be rolled over into the county, and if they're going to accept that job. I'd also like to know if the situation is such that we're trying to perhaps get rid of, or the city assessor is going to retire, if that was the purpose of the whole discussion in the first place. So I think those are some things we still have to take a look at. And I'm all for privatizing when it makes sense, but if we have a staff that's doing a credible job, and I feel that they are, I think that we shouldn't just cut staff to cut staff.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. As far as privatization, there's a big difference between privatization and outsourcing and consolidation. Consolidation, I think we've done some of that with our EMTs, are consolidated with our fire department, so we don't have something separate there. I don't have a problem with that. But to take a section of workers and put it out for outsourcing, it's always looks good. It's like getting a new quote for new insurance because you're looking for another carrier. You're going to get a low bid, and over the years it's going to go up and up and up. And so once that is outsourced, you're pretty much stuck. And one of the things that the mayor's brought up before that's a good point is you also you do lose that control, but you lose total control of what happens. As far as people like on our street department and our solid waste collection, these guys do that job every single day. They outbid some of the biggest garbage haulers in the United States. When they came up with their plan for the recycling, their bid was about $87 cents lower, and saved us a lot of money. But the thing is, these are the guys that get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and come out and plow the snow when we got 2 to 3 inches of snow. These are the guys that are there when you're not going to call a private hauler and say, we need your guys here at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's just not going to happen. So on the surface, a new contract looks good because they want to get the contract. As the years go on, you're going to wind up in an area where you really wish you never got into it. So I can work with some consolidation, but privatization, outsourcing of city services, I'm just not going to be in favor of.
Thank you. Mr. Oder, last legislative session, the Iowa legislature legalized the use of fireworks but allowed local jurisdictions to restrict the use of fireworks. What's your position on the legalization of fireworks?
That's a good question because I've evolved on this issue a little bit initially, and now the council never got a chance to formally discuss this a lot. I know it was on a cow once or twice, committee of the whole. But I think after seeing how things transpired this past year, let me just be a little blunt and say I think it was a little ridiculous. The state came out, they legalized fireworks, and it was kind of a free-for-all. A lot of people didn't understand that cities had control of their own jurisdictions. We decided to leave our ban in place, which was already there, so we took no action on this. However, a lot of the individuals heard the state legalize them and started shooting them off, and we had a lot of issues. There was a lot of phone calls. I know we all took them that were on the council. City Hall was bombarded with them, the fire department, and so on and so forth. And so, long story short, I'm in favor of leaving the ban right now until things can be worked out. The state legalizing them, and I don't want to sit here and just bash on the state, but they didn't take into consideration a lot of things, and they should have waited. So I'd say leave it as it is. Thank you.
Ms. Allison?
I agree with that. I think that once they put out an issue like this and they don't have any legislative rules along with it, it leaves the cities in a very awkward position. And we did have discussions on this, but from what I saw, I would want the rules to stay in place because people went way above board and above the timing elements that could be set to make this a rule that could be workable within the city. So I think we'll have another go at it, but I've seen other cities have also had issues. So I think there's a lot of us in the state probably trying to work this out so that it benefits everybody and is not a pain for the residents.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. There were several things that the legislature passed last year that I wasn't in favor of, but I think this really hit the top of the list. I always used to think that unfunded mandates were the curse of the legislature, but this wasn't really an unfunded mandate. It was just a chaotic situation that a lot of places didn't handle the right way. Some went along and let it run wild and have fireworks, and they're probably sorry they did. One of the things that weren't brought up in a lot of discussions are some of the things that were affected by it. It's very harmful for animals. The elderly don't like it. There are a number of our veterans that have post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is a serious situation. I had a cousin that suffered from that, and when we celebrated the 4th of July, he went home before dusk because he could not be around it. And so those are the things where people are affected in a negative way of this, and for us just to open it up, I don't think is a good idea.
Thank you. Mr. Shimmers?
Yeah, I do think that the state kind of left the situation wide open and unfortunately put it on the backs of all the cities and the counties. I think first and foremost, one thing that wasn't considered is the public safety response. Your firefighters are going to have to go on calls to help the people that have been hurt by fireworks, and in some cases, maybe if it's dry, even start the fires. But most of all, the calls for service for police department, where they have to get an inundated amount of calls that night, possibly sounding like gunshots and whatnot. So I would be totally in favor until more research is done and until the state can come up with some alternatives, leaving the ban in place the way it was this year by the current city council.
Thank you. All right. Last question, Ms. Allison. What do you see as the role of the city council in relation to that of the mayor?
Well, the mayor is an elected position. City council is an elected position. The city administrator reports to the city council. The mayor has veto authority. The mayor has been good at guidance for us. For those of the mayor had been on council quite a period of time. He offers guidance to us on many issues. I think we've worked well together, the last council particularly, maybe the last couple councils. We seem to be able to have differences of opinion, and yet when we go home, we're not mad at each other. And to me, that's a great coup. I have not had any issue with the mayor or any of my fellow councilmen.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. You know, the mayor is our official spokesman and representative for the city. He's our facilitator for the meetings, and he is also our ambassador for visitors from other cities, from the state, national, from other places in the United States, and recently has been our ambassador internationally with the visit for the Ashford University. He does have the veto power, and he uses it when he deems it necessary. Our city administrator, which is probably one of the top 5 best things we did this past session, does a great job of using his military training and his ability to formulate solutions to help us move forward on the council. And the council is shoulders the final responsibility for everything. We're the last place that this all lands. If it's a good idea, then it was a good idea for us. If it was a bad idea, it's our responsibility. So, you know, at the end of the day, with all these things working together, the 7 people that sit up here are responsible for voting for what goes on, and we're the ones that are responsible for it.
Thank you. Mr. Shimmers.
Yeah, the job of the council is just that. We are, or hopefully it'll be we. The job of the council is to pass ordinances, resolutions, and motions. They're the ones that dictate what happens in the city. The mayor is the face of the city, and he goes out and he passes along what the council has put forward. I think the administrator and I'd have to agree that Matt is a great guy, and with his training and whatnot. Ultimately, he's the chief operations officer, if you will. If you look in the board of directors, he runs the city. So everything that happens is done by the council. The mayor goes out and represents the city, and the administrator is the one who runs the city.
Thank you. Mr. Oder.
Yeah, so it's already been reiterated here tonight that, you know, the council is the decision-making, the legislative body, if you will, of our municipality, no different than Congress or the state legislature. And the mayor acts as an executive in many ways, part of the executive branch as the governor or the president would. And so as a council, we vote on things that are brought to our attention, and we can certainly bring things up to vote. And in my mind, the way it should be is the mayor should be the driving force of laying out the agenda, laying out the leadership for the city, in driving our policies and driving our vision and selling that. And I think he does a great job at that. So, and then with Matt, as has been reiterated, fantastic guy. He is probably one of the best things to happen to the city in the last few years. And as Mr. Shemmers alluded to, being the chief operating officer, he should be the one listening to what we're voting on and implementing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes all of our questions tonight. I want to thank each of the candidates for their very thoughtful discussion and well thought out answers. We'll give each candidate an opportunity, 2 minutes now, to give a closing statement. And why don't we start with Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. One of the things that I've been asked, you know, why do I think I'm a good fit for being back on the city council and reelected? I'm a good fit because I've been around for a while, and I've been in this arena, and I've seen things work, and I've seen things that don't work. And over the past 13 years, I've developed a passion for doing this. I actually really enjoy coming here on Tuesday and working with the council and getting things done. I've seen some good decisions made over the years, and I've seen some bad decisions. And I feel uniquely experienced on how to get these things accomplished to make this city a better place to live, work, and grow. And over the past, I also like to repeat some of the accomplishments we've done over the last 4 years. Over the past 5 years, being connected with the council, I think I've become a better listener, a very good compromiser, an idea person, and I like to use those talents in the future to make the city move forward. We do have a lot of things coming up in the very near future. As far as expansion, I think we're going to see some things pop up and grow in the tech park. The project at Ashford University, putting the STEM University on that campus, is probably the #1 priority right now for me to make sure that comes to fruition. And I really feel we can come back here in for the next 4 years and do a lot of good and get a lot of things accomplished. I put a lot of time and effort in this position because I enjoy it and I value the results of the people that we serve. And now I may not make a good decision as a politician, but I think I make good decisions as a public servant. Thank you.
Thank Mr. Shimmers.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have to say I'm the only one sitting up here that doesn't sit up here as a normal course of action on Tuesday nights. However, that being said, for over 2 years I've sat out there where the people are out there tonight. I've listened, I've sat. I probably have a better attendance than some even council members, quite frankly, with regards to attending council meetings here. But that doesn't stop there. I'm still involved. I am a commissioner out at the airport as a volunteer. I'm also a commissioner on the planning department here as a volunteer. I'm involved with the human trafficking with the Catholic charities here. I'm very involved, and I would only stress the fact that it's unfortunate that my two people that are also running against me out here, so you do have a good comparison, an opportunity to compare fairly. The three of us, it's me for at large right now. All I would say is I think I could bring in a good source of life knowledge from other places around the country. I have worked with government agencies throughout the country. I don't see that slowing down anytime in the near future. My goal is to make sure my kids and your kids want to stay and raise their families here. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, growing the city of Clinton, making Clinton a place and a better community for all of us. I think the fact, if I were to sit here every Tuesday, it would go well beyond just attending the meetings that are here. My involvement has taken me far. It's taught me a lot. I think every one of these people have seen me at one meeting or another. I think it's time to make a decision to move the city forward, and I do think I would be a great candidate, not only to represent the people, to also help us as a community to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roeder.
Well, as Ed and I are the only ones here tonight that are each other's opponent, with Julie running unopposed and Bill not showing up, I want to show why I am different. And no disrespect to Ed's service to our community. He's done a fantastic job until now. I want to say this, that I am proof that the future of Clinton is worth fighting for. I live here. I'm 32 years old. I'm the youngest one on the council. I'm the youngest one up here tonight. I'm married. I have 3 kids. And we chose to live here and stay here because of the future that we see here. I am living proof that I can have an impact at a young age, and everybody always laments the fact that they want to see younger people involved in city government and the community, and I am proof of that. And I'm not one to sit here and promote myself all the time, but I am proof that young people like us do care about this city. We do have the time, despite having kids, despite having families, and so on and so forth. And busy jobs, by the way, is what, I'm a young working millennial. And so where I differ with my opponent is that I look towards the future in a different way, in a different sort of light, because of what I am accomplishing right now through my employment, through my family, through my church, and just in my neighborhood. It is incredible the people you meet when you have kids, when you're out in the neighborhood and you see the future of Clinton literally right before you, and you think, what can we do so that it's better for them? And I think a lot of individuals who have served on the council in the past have done a great job being future-minded as well. But it is time to take that next step of vigor, vitality, and being progressive, and really coming together as a community once again. And I think we can do that again. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Allison.
Well, I'm going to tell you that my ward is the gateway to Clinton, and I'm very proud of that fact. I've been a Clinton resident all of my life, and I did live in Ward 1 for a large period of time. It's also the changing ward. Over the last 5 years, it's changed. There's no South Clinton anymore. There's no Liberty Square anymore, and the district has totally widened out and expanded over time. I feel that I've been responsive to the calls from the citizens in my ward. I try to answer their problems, and when I can't, I try to find an answer for them. I have consistently voted to improve our roads and streets through the pavement management program. I have consistently voted to decrease taxes in this town. I have a great concern about the future of this town. No matter what age I am, I still look for the quality of life that would bring people to this community and keep them here. I've worked hard at it over the years. I think I continue to work for the residents of my ward. I have a variety of businesses and residents in my ward, from probably some of the highest properties to maybe some of those that are not the highest properties in town. Everyone is on the same plane here. We're trying to do the best that we can as citizens. And I want to thank anybody here for their vote. And it's odd to run against yourself in a forum, I can tell you that. But if you are from Ward 1, living in Ward 1, please go and vote on November 7th at the First United Methodist Church, 613 South 3rd Street. We all appreciate your vote, and thank you.
Okay, that concludes the forum. I'd like to thank the city, the chamber, for sponsoring this forum. On behalf of the chamber, thank you to each of the candidates for participating today. Thank you for those who attended here in the audience and those who are watching us on TV. I would remind you that there will be a coffee with the candidates at the Clinton Chamber on Saturday, November 21st. So please come out and I said October. I'm sorry, October 21st.
Too late then.
Yeah. Apologize about that. But please come out to the chamber and talk to your candidates. Remember to vote, and have a nice evening. Thank you.